Imagine a man so wealthy that when he traveled across continents, entire cities' economies collapsed behind him. A ruler whose gold was so famous that medieval Europeans drew him on maps, holding a massive golden nugget in his hand. A king whose fortune still makes modern billionaires look small. His name was Mansa Musa, and he may have been the richest human being who ever lived. Tonight, we uncover the astonishing story of the African emperor who ruled the most powerful gold empire on earth, and whose single journey reshaped world history. In the early 1300s, while much of Europe was struggling through plagues and feudal wars, West Africa was home to one of the richest civilizations on the planet. This was the Mali Empire. Stretching across huge portions of modern-day Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Niger, and beyond, Mali controlled crucial trans-Saharan trade routes. Salt from the desert, ivory from forests, and above all, gold. Gold was the oil of the medieval world. It funded kingdoms, armies, and empires, and Mali possessed enormous gold fields. When Mansa Musa rose to power around 1312, he inherited not just a throne, but a treasure system that fed half the old world. Unlike modern billionaires, Musa's wealth wasn't stored in banks or stocks. It came from controlling land, mines, caravans, taxes, and global trade. He didn't just have money, he commanded the source of money itself. Today, Mansa Musa stands as proof that medieval Africa was not isolated or poor. It was connected, educated, commercial, innovative. His reign challenges stereotypes. He reminds us that history's greatest fortunes didn't only come from Wall Street or Silicon Valley, but from desert caravans, river ports, and ancient cities glowing with scholarship. More than 700 years later, people still argue about his wealth, share his portrait, tell his story, and wonder, was Mansa Musa the richest person who ever lived? Perhaps. But more importantly, he was one of the most influential. Mansa Musa, also known as Musa I, was part of a royal dynasty that had already turned Mali into a powerhouse. The word Mansa meant emperor, and Musa ruled with both political authority and religious devotion. He was a devout Muslim, highly educated, and fascinated by scholarship. But what truly set him apart was scale. Scale of territory, scale of trade, scale of wealth. His court overflowed with officials, merchants, soldiers, and scholars. Caravans moved constantly across the desert. Thousands of camels carrying goods between Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. And every route passed through Musa's lands. Every tax flowed toward his treasury. In 1324, Mansa Musa made a decision that would turn him into legend. He would perform the Hajj, the Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca. For most believers, the journey was long and dangerous. For Mansa Musa, it became the greatest display of wealth the medieval world had ever seen. He did not travel alone. Chroniclers describe a procession of tens of thousands of people, officials, slaves dressed in silk, soldiers with spears of gold-plated metal, heralds, musicians, and hundreds of camels, each carrying loads of pure gold dust. As the caravan crossed the Sahara, it looked less like a pilgrimage and more like a moving city of unimaginable luxury. When Musa reached Cairo, then one of the wealthiest cities on earth, something unprecedented happened. He gave, and gave, and gave. Gold coins to the poor, gold bars to officials, gold gifts to merchants, scholars, and rulers. So much gold flooded the markets that its value dropped sharply. Prices rose. Inflation set in. Historical accounts say the Egyptian economy struggled for years afterward. One man, had accidentally destabilized a regional economy simply by being generous. Later, Musa reportedly tried to fix the problem by borrowing gold back at high interest, one of the earliest recorded attempts at economic damage control. No other individual in recorded history is known to have caused inflation on that scale by traveling. News of this golden emperor spread fast. Merchants carried the story east. Scholars wrote about him. Travelers told tales of a king whose wealth defied imagination. And in Europe, where gold was scarce, his name became legendary. In 1375, decades after his pilgrimage, mapmakers created the Catalan Atlas. There, drawn larger than most rulers, sat Mansa Musa, crowned, seated on a throne, holding a giant nugget of gold. This image turned him into the symbol of Africa's wealth in medieval Europe. Long before modern globalization, Mansa Musa had become internationally famous. But Musa was not only a spender, he was a builder. When he returned to Mali, he invested huge sums into cities, especially Timbuktu. At the time, Timbuktu was already a trading hub. Under Musa, it transformed into a center of scholarship. Libraries expanded. Mosques became universities. Students traveled from North Africa and the Middle East to study law, astronomy, mathematics, and theology. Thousands of manuscripts circulated, some of which still survive today. In an era when books were priceless, Timbuktu became a city of knowledge. Mansa Musa understood something rare for medieval rulers. Wealth fades, education lasts. Musa also reshaped Mali's architecture. He funded massive construction projects across his empire. The most famous was the Jingareber Mosque in Timbuktu. Built with mud brick and timber, it became one of Africa's most iconic religious structures. He also sponsored mosques in Gao and other cities. According to tradition, Musa brought back an architect from Islamic Spain and paid him lavishly to design buildings blending North African and West African styles. These monuments were not just religious centers, they were symbols. They announced to the world, Mali was rich, Mali was powerful, Mali was sophisticated. So, just how wealthy was Mansa Musa? This is where history becomes tricky. Medieval kings didn't publish balance sheets, but historians try to estimate his fortune based on gold production, trade taxes, territorial control, share of the world economy. Some modern writers place his wealth in the hundreds of billions, or even trillions, in today's money. But the real truth is simpler. Mansa Musa's wealth was so vast that it resists calculation. He didn't merely own gold, he controlled the system that produced it. In today's terms, it would be like ruling every major oil field, shipping lane, and central bank at once. Unlike modern tycoons, Musa couldn't lose his fortune in stock crashes. His power came from land, people, caravans, mines, faith, armies. As long as Mali dominated trade routes, wealth flowed. But empires are fragile. After Musa's death in the mid-1300s, Mali remained powerful, but internal struggles and outside rivals slowly weakened it. No successor ever matched his global reputation. The Golden Age faded, but the legend never did.